Hi everybody, this is a quick demonstration of the Acumatica time tracker designed by Trabea software, and today we're going to focus on how it interacts with the Acumatica projects. So I've got a time tracker started here. I'm going to go ahead and hit clock in. I've got my category defaulted to project, that's based off my user profile, and I'm going to go ahead and find my project. So you can search by project ID, by description, and select your project. When you select your project task, it's going to look only at the tasks of your selected project. And again, you can search through those as well. Notice my cost code has defaulted in. We've added a default cost code at the employee level. The labor item is also defaulted, so we see that. But I want to point out another feature here. Notice that my cost codes, if I do the lookup here, I've only got a handful in here, right? So there's 6 of them there. And the reason for that, even though I've got a lot more cost codes in general, is I've checked this box to restrict cost code selection by employee codes. If I look at my employee record, I've got a cost code tab. So here I can load all the cost codes that I want my employee to be able to utilize with labor entry. So that can help reduce some mistakes and increase efficiency by not having to sift through what could be a large number of cost codes that are not relevant to time entry or to this employee's time entry. I also have added the same tab to the employee class to make entering new employees faster. And if I also go to cost codes, I want to show there is also a field here added called labor code, and it's just a true false. I want to sort that to true and show you the 2 that are there. So there's only a couple here. There's an additional preference to restrict cost code selection by labor codes, and I want to show what that does. So we've only got 2, and if I come over here now, I've only got those 2, right? So that filter, you can stack these filters. You could use none or all or just a couple. They all work, and this one here will reduce your selection to the cost codes found on the project budget. This one will reduce the selection down to the cost codes found on the project task. So different levels of restrictions, built to be very flexible with how you may desire to use it. And I should have my full selections back for that employee. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. We've now clocked in. It recorded the time at 5:04 even though it was 5:07 when I finally hit OK. It bases this time on the moment you click on clock in. So if you spend a couple minutes like I did figuring out what job you're working on, hopefully you can make a selection faster than that, but it clocks you in at the moment you hit clock in, so you don't lose that time, even if it's just 30 seconds, right? All right, so next what we're going to do is show the set task feature. So this feature, if I click on it, lets you change the job you're working on the fly. And for this one, I just want to show, I want to keep working on the same job, but a different task, right? So I'm going to move to number 2 and hit OK. And just like that, my time is now starting to go to task number 2. So I've got a task out and a task in. Task out to the original and task in here. I also want to go ahead and change this back to some other times here. Let's do something like 8 a.m. and then let's say 9 a.m. for this. It's always interesting doing demos for a time tracker, condensing an entire day's worth of punches into an hour. I need to do some manual edits. And now if I go over to the log, the functionality with this log is any manual edits that you perform over on the tracking tab will come over here and populate on the log. So you can see the original time and the new time, as well as any other details you may have changed with that. And it also shows who did it and when. So this will track any manual edits, any additions or deletions. So it gives us an audit trail without having to turn on the audit history for everything in here. All right. The next piece I want to show is breakout. Notice when we hit breakout, our status changes to on break. My last punch here is breakout. And I can't do anything except break in, right? It doesn't make sense for me to break out again or push any of these others. So the only logical next step is break in. So this will guide you and help make sure you're making the right decision for your next action. So we'll go ahead and hit break in, and then let's change these times. Let's do something like 10 and 10:30 here. And I'll show, just to show, we can do manual overrides there as well by typing over, if the 30-minute increments are too broad there, you can manually type it in. So we've got our break. Now our break, the behavior there, it is included in your duration for the day, so a time activity is going to be created. Where you do have an option is whether or not you want that break time, so the 15 minutes in our situation, coded to the project that we were working on, or do you want that time coded to a non-project code, which is normally X? Which pathway do you want to take? You get to make that decision, but either way, it's going to be counted as part of the duration for the day. Lunches, however, if I go ahead and do lunch out, and just to show that status, I'm on lunch. And the way the lunch out works is that is off the clock, right? So normally you could say 30 minutes as an example, but that's time off the clock, so it will not be included in the duration. It will still have its own duration down here, but the total duration it will not have, and it will not have a time activity created for it. So that's a conundrum that it was always difficult to solve with just the native time card and time activities, is indicating a lunch, right? Because it would want to create some kind of time to indicate that, and then all of a sudden you've got an activity that, if you were using Acumatica's payroll, for example, would be consumed by the payroll and treated as if it was time worked instead of time off the clock. So I'm going to do lunch in here, and we are going to back these up so it looks kind of normal at least. And next I want to show the set task feature, but with a barcode. So I've got a barcode in front of me representing a project, a task, and a cost code. If you're not using cost codes, then this field just wouldn't exist, and your barcode could just be project and task. And so the way it's treated is, if your barcode has a kind of a suffix of a carriage return or pressing enter, then it would just accept that and move forward, right? So it's done the set task for us with just scanning a barcode. So I would envision maybe a daily field report printed with the barcode on it, even out in the field, scanning that with a phone on the mobile device as an example, just to help instead of manually selecting everything. But you have both options there. So I'm going to back that one up to 3. And, throughout this, I've had these columns here. Notice that I've got other available columns related to the other categories that the time tracker offers, but for purposes of this demo, I have it consolidated just for projects. And the summary tab, this is basically taking everything we've got over here and summarizing it. And I want to show, right now it doesn't have that third. I really have 3 jobs. Technically it's 2 jobs, but one of them has 2 different tasks. But this 31 here, we don't really have an out for it yet. We haven't clocked out or tasked out, so it's not showing over there. But I'm going to go ahead and hit clock out. And notice now I can complete my document, and if we go back to the summary, we've got that third one. Expand this a little. So it's actually, we've got the project 31 right there, and we've got the durations for each one. So this represents the time activities that are going to be created when we complete. And we could have completed along the way for anything that we were out, meaning we've had a task out. We could have completed along the way if you needed time to be reported back for any reason throughout the day. I think that's more of a manufacturing use case, but it is there. When you complete from here, it also completes your document. So that's the main difference. And before I complete, I'm going to hit some notes in here. The description, you can override the description as well. You know, there's some default text in there. And you can complete, and it's going to go out and create the associated time activities. Now I can reopen, as long as I have not released the time activity, I can reopen this. If I've released it, then it won't let me reopen because that is now a released document. One more thing about the time tracker preferences here is time activities can be created on hold status or not. I've left it unchecked, so that means it doesn't need to pass through another step of removing hold. We can take that off, and if I go and refresh the release time activities screen, we'll see those entries here ready to be released. So that's the gain you get out of not passing them through hold. But if you want that in there, then you just check this box. All right, thank you. Let me know if there are any questions.